Fighting gentlemen, people, once again. And today, I'm pretty sure we have all asked ourselves this question. If you're anyone like me, where is the gaming industry going today? Is it going in a good direction as far as... Because right now, it's looking pretty dark. And I asked you a very important question, other than what I just stated, which is rhetorical, of course. Is gaming nowadays considered a luxury? Is it not getting too expensive as it is? I mean, even when I started coming out, because I'm a child from the 90s, of course, when I was a young lad, even though I technically still am, games like Super Mario World and those games of those nature, they were commonplace nowadays. I grew up on those sort of games, which is why it's, which should be of no surprise, I'm so critical on today's gaming, because it's not so much it's not just the expenses I'm so critical about. It's the fact that they can pretty much repackage the same game over and over again, and that is considered acceptable. And plus, with how patches and DLC is concerned, it feels like these games aren't even complete. Even though in the past, when DLC started, it was like a little extra icing on the cake. It was like dessert after your dinner. It wasn't like, well, we're gonna give you half of the meal even though you paid full price, but if you want the other half, you gotta buy this along with it. Because that's kind of how it feels nowadays as far as DLC is concerned. But most people don't think about it in this way, but it almost feels like to be a gamer, you'd have to be rich in some sort of way. A lot of people have asked that question to me. They're like, are you rich? Are you rich? But when you live in Louisiana, acting and sounding and appearing the way I do, yeah, in all severity, I don't think those people ask that because of whether or not I'm a gamer, because in those conversations, the topic of gaming and video games for that matter were not even brought up, if I can even remember any. It's because of my character. But without digressing, when I think about how much I, over the years, have spent and invested in just video games in general, it's ridiculous, man. I mean, that's not counting the collector's editions and all the other extra tidbits that people may have spent on these type of games. I mean, it's commonplace for big title games to have, if not one, but two big little collector's editions. There's like a small collector's edition, and there's like the box that when you order, it's a box within a box. You get what I'm saying? I noticed this around the time when Modern Warfare 2 came out, that they started doing this sort of thing. And aside from buying collector's editions, these games are fucking expensive. There's no way. I mean, think about it. We live in a day and age, like even during the PS2, we had games that were like $50 new to start. Aside from the PS2 itself being like $300 to start, which, back then inflation wasn't so bad and the economy wasn't so terrible, it was just beginning to. But at least even then, like, we still had quite a bit to spend things on. Like, we had to buy an extra controller, we had multiplayer games. Remember, online gaming was not a standard in that aspect of the video game generation at the time. So either an extra controller, and of course we gotta buy memory cards, because who's gonna play a game that you can't save on, which you need to save on to progress? No one's gonna leave the PS2 on that long. Aside from that, it was pretty much, but even back then, even though you spent a little bit, it wasn't as much as you do now. You pretty much, at the most, you bought the memory cards, you bought the controller, and then you bought the games. The games will dwindle down in price. It will range from 40 to 30. It will drop down so quickly. Remember, this is when GameStop did rip people off ad nauseum. And if you were cool with people like me, Walmart's bullshit software return policy mattered nothing to you. You could pretty much just skate around that whole little avenue. EB Games was the shit. But without being nostalgic, take a look at today's gaming. We have systems that are well over $300 some to start. At least at this point in time, the systems have dropped at a reasonable price, but they've been re-released with all these other things. And controllers are no longer just one aspect of the accessories you have to invest in, especially since now it's not limited to 2 controller slots. We may have had multi-ports that you could buy in some black market on in the back of some old abandoned Toys R Us store, but no one was buying those at like talking about, because how many games on the games like the PS on the systems like the PS2 were people really buying? Same with Xbox. Xbox started making online gaming a standard, the original Xbox for that matter. Of course, if you really want to argue, PC gaming was kind of doing that before we got it in there, but as far as console gaming is concerned, yeah, Xbox started it. So before then, we didn't have to worry too much about spending so much, but nowadays, let's take a look at just the 360, for example. 360, we kind of have games nowadays where 4 people can play at once. If you're winning like me, someone that bought it before the year 2009, the system I bought the white version of it, so that means that if you want to play online, unless you got a long ass cable that you want to run all throughout the house, you got to buy one of these wireless adapters. That's $100 to start. It is just now, after 6 years, dropping down in price, and the only reason why that is because of the Xbox Elite system, which has it built into it. It took them so many years to re-release a system to have something that should have been in there anyway, that you know we need and want. That's pretty fucking dirty, which most Sony heads will make that argument. Well, see, you know, the PS3, they had a wireless adapter in it. Yeah, but how much were you paying for it? To start out, what was that, $500? And that is, you know, that depends on what size hard drive you're buying. And the file size of some of the games you save on the PS3 are not small. We're talking about whole gigs for one game. And that's not counting the add-ons. And once again, I'm just talking about accessories right now. I haven't even got to the games yet. 360, you got 4 controllers, wireless adapter. That's whole hand. And on top of that, you got, if you don't already have it, the Ethernet cable, which kind of dumbs into the wireless, so that technically doesn't count. We got the headset. You're gonna need that, because unless you like hearing voices come from your TV and you not being able to respond to them, have fun with that. What other accessories can we look forward to? I didn't buy this, but some people did. The attachable keypad, which I got big hands. I play piano. It's not gonna work for me. So, you know, having a USB keyboard that I can connect to my 360, since I'm not going to be so far away from it, and I can type at 80 words per WPM. That is pretty much what I do. But other than that, you got the hard drives. The hard drives, they just vary in size. They might as well just make a 1 terabyte hard drive, because I think the last biggest one they had was like 500 gigs. And most people are like, well, who would need that much space? You'd be surprised, man. If you're anyone like me that buys a lot of DLC games and then buys the DLC for retail games, 60 gigs, which is the size of my hard drive, it doesn't last long. And then there's a lot of free content on the Xbox Live's marketplace. You know, free content as of, you know, like, it may not always be games. It may be, you know, like trailers or trials of games or demos or coverage of events or music videos, and but that space, man, it don't last long. It really doesn't. I'm constantly having to free up space on my hard drive just to make room for any new content. And some of this, and I download a lot of Xbox Live Arcade games. They're great games too. I actually went through the list of achievements. Not necessarily the ones I got and will get, because I'm not really an achievement for, but it lists all the games you've played, and most of them, it seems like, are downloadable games. And some of these downloadable games have DLC of its own. Whether that be to start out or gradually throughout the progression. And now they're starting to do the games on demand thing, where you can download whole retail games on the hard drive. 60 gigs is nothing. 500 gigs after a while. It also will basically be obsolete. Of course, you'll have tons of time to free up all that space, because I doubt you'll play all those games in one sit through. But, you know, I have a lot of friends that play all kinds of different kinds of games, and they may not necessarily all be multiplayer. And when I say friends, I don't just necessarily mean friends online. I mean real friends. Friends that want to come over and play something different than Street Fighter 4, because that's pretty much what I play on a regular basis. You got all of that, and then, like I mentioned earlier, there's the collector's editions. The collector's editions of games, they didn't just pop up recently. They've actually been around for quite some time. It used to be rare that you would get collector's editions of games. Like, they would have to announce it, and it would be every now and then. Now is becoming commonplace. Like, if you've ever gone online of like the homepage of eBay or Amazon or anything of the sort, type in collector's edition or look up some of the recent games that will be coming out. You will be surprised how many, like, give me a break, you'll be all day looking at all the collector's editions they have, and some of them are decent, but most of them ain't good. The last collector's edition I bought was decent, but the game was horrible. And that was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I can't believe I just admitted that. Before that, it was Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2. What the hell was I thinking? I think that's about as bad as it's ever been. And sometimes you get rare little gems. I haven't really been able to afford too many collector's editions lately, because the games that they're for, I'm not that interested in anyway. Sometimes you just get a little bit and that's it. And that's not talking about if you've got various versions of the quote-unquote collector's edition. Because I remember Dead Rising 2, when it first came out, it had two different types of collector's editions. There was the official one, and then there was the Capcom one. The Capcom one I call the high stakes edition, is what they call it. It basically had a deck of playing cards based upon the characters, and it's a poker set, complete with chips and everything. And it's actually pretty cool. Aside from that, it gave you a voucher to get early access to one of the DLC costumes, which was later released shortly afterwards. And it was actually themed off of it. They gave you a pamphlet of Fortune City to give it more of a surreal feel. It was actually pretty cool. I might show that on camera in later videos. And then there was it was something else. Oh yeah, they entered you in a contest to win like a giant statuette of the zombie. It had a name, but of course I didn't win because you see it. And then again, how the hell would I get it through this door? Or in this house for that matter, in perfect condition? And yeah, that's real attractive to have that next to the fireplace. Like, oh, what's that? That's a giant statue. Anyway, I digress. And then there was the Zombrex edition. The Zombrex edition was the official one. He gave you a box of Zombrex, Nito, DVD of the Dead Rising, what was it, Dead Rising, I don't remember the name of it, Dead Rising Sun or something of the sort. Japanese actors. It was decent, you know, kind of added to the lore of it. But it's just, in the end, I'm paying. These games are like $60 standard edition, and with other games, with the collector's editions, I'm paying well over that. We're talking about $70, $80 per game. And like I said earlier, if it were like with Black Ops 2 or something of the sort, there's like the hardened edition, and then there's like the big box one. Like the hardened edition would probably be like $80. the box one's probably got some big stupid remote control car or something, and it's like well over 150 bucks. It's just, oh my god, it's expensive, man. And PC gamers have always had to deal with these sorts of expenses, but it wasn't this type of bullshit. I mean, maybe it's not so much. I mean, they had to pay for the upgrades and the computers, and sometimes you'd have to pay for keyboards. Sometimes you have to pay for specific mouses for the designs. And then there's the internet connection to keep it solid. You got all this extra other stuff, and then there's the game itself. I've spent hundreds of dollars already on just to play, if not one game, just a few games. And then there's the DLC, and then, oh my god, it's today in gaming. I don't know if I can handle dealing with the fact, because it's getting to the point where everything is online. And I had a rant about this in the past, where it's like, we are getting to the point where games are going to always be online. Like, they're going to be online only. If you got no internet connection, you can't play it. And that's a bill within itself. The internet, and then there's the electric. And if you're an audio visual file like me, you want to have a nice quality TV. Maybe not in here, but also in my living room, I got a, like, what is it, 40-inch 1080p big screen TV, plasma screen, and then there's like 13 speakers, surround sound, including a subwoofer and equalizer. That's money, people. So maybe I am rich, but I don't look it, act it, or feel it, because I'm paying so much money for these games. Now, the sound system, all that's not necessary. The point I'm making here is that if you just are buying the games regularly, if I showed you how many games I had in this room, give me a break. We'll be all day showing you how I'll be showing you all the different games I've bought over the years, and don't talk about the DLC of those games, or the downloadable games, or the DLC of those games. If I were to add up all those expenses, I may not necessarily be able to relocate, but man, we're talking about some serious money here, people. Can we keep going on like this? And we haven't had too many great games lately either. So how much longer is this type of bullshit going to go on? Why is everything so expensive? What are your thoughts? Because I've thought about this for quite some time. Something's got to change, man. It's got to. I know everything's expensive now, but it's pretty much a luxury to be a gamer. Maybe we are rich and don't realize it. Fighting Gentleman, signing out.